Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. My name is Lauren Maloney, and today I'll be presenting Cannabis Gap. How safe is your growing business? First, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Perry Johnson Registrars Food Safety, Inc., or otherwise known as PJRFSI. We're headquartered in Troy, Michigan, and we're part of a family of companies in the registration and certification areas. We have global offices located in Italy, UK, Japan, Mexico, China, and India. And PJRFSI offers a wide range of food safety certification types, from HACCP to GFSI, organic, gluten-free. Recently, we have added Cannabis Safety Audits and Hemp Safety Audits to our program, and we have become accredited by ANAB or ANSI in May of 2020. So today I'd like to talk about our PJRFSI Cannabis Safety Standard for Cultivation. So why does the food safety matter in the cannabis industry? Food safety is the production of safe food that will not make the consumer sick from ingesting it. We will explore the reasons food safety and cannabis product safety is so important. The cannabis industry is like the Wild West. It seems like new inventive cannabis-infused products are popping up everywhere. Cannabis and CBD-infused drinks, gummies, powders, chocolates, lotions, tinctures, and even dog treats are just some of the products on the market. An increase in products leads to an increase in demand for cannabis flower. Growers may have the cannabis expertise and experience, but lack the knowledge of agricultural product safety. Growers have the responsibility to grow cannabis flower safely. This means implementing appropriate controls from seed to harvest. Controls need to be in place for irrigation, water, fertilizer, pesticide application, and harvest practices. Ensuring that food safety is properly implemented takes a commitment from everyone in the company, from upper management to production employees. The U.S. government is responsible for setting food safety standards. Agricultural products typically fall under the Department of Agriculture or the FDA under the produce rule. Regulatory bodies also conduct inspection and enforce laws that are applicable. Furthermore, growers and farmers must follow state or local regulations and licensing. However, with marijuana not being federally legal, and regulation is up to the states to define requirements, as well as the agency that will enforce those requirements. Marijuana legality by state is ever changing. Each year, more states are legalizing medical marijuana or recreational marijuana and marijuana-infused products. 11 states, as well as the District of Columbia, have made recreational or adult use of marijuana legal. An additional 22 states have legalized medical marijuana. A few more states have decriminalized it, while the remaining 9 is still illegal. Hemp is defined by THC levels below 0.3%. Currently, 41 states have enacted hemp legislation, which means that hemp can be grown in those states under research or pilot programs. The 2018 Farm Bill removed hemp from Schedule I controlled substances and made it legal. In December 2019, the USDA published their interim final rule for public comment. Under the 2018 Farm Bill mandates that states, Indian tribes must submit a plan for approval to the USDA for domestic production of hemp. In the states that do not have it or don't submit a plan, then the USDA establishes a federal plan. Food safety in the cannabis industry is important because it's only legal in select states and is not regulated federally like other food and drugs. Cannabis cultivation and product manufacture is not enforced by FDA, and instead the safety of the products are enforced through state-appointed divisions, which can vary by county. Even though CBD is derived from a legal plant, hemp, FDA has not approved any CBD products or allowed CBD to be added to any dietary supplement or food. This is due to the FDA only approving one prescription drug to treat epilepsy. The lack of conformity between state regulations adds to the confusion in this ever-growing and changing marketplace. State agencies split up the responsibility of managing different aspects of cannabis, like Oregon, California, and other states put a broad program under one agency, like the Department of Taxation, that may not seem to make much sense. If the agency doesn't understand or enact requirements to make products safe, how do consumers know that what they are ingesting? We are slowly seeing more and more legalization, but that is going to take time, and while we wait for a federal program, marijuana is grown and products are produced and consumed. Consumers of medical marijuana are often immunocompromised, elderly, or young. CBD products have varying label claims for medical benefits and often higher than intended levels of CBD or THC could cause unwanted effects. This is some of the few reasons why cannabis safety is so important. Cannabis recalls also do happen. Marijuana flower and cannabis products are not free from product recalls, just like our food and drugs. Cannabis can be recalled for food safety issues like molds and yeasts, pathogens, pesticides, and heavy metals. Without rigorous controls in place, it is easy to make mistakes and make someone sick in the process. Recalls can be very costly. Disposal of contaminated product is expensive, and settling lawsuits for a consumer is even more so. Agricultural product concerns include improper growing conditions, handling, and storage that can result in dangerous risks for consumers. Two of the primary types of mycotoxins that are associated with cannabis are aflatoxins and ochratoxins. Medical and recreational marijuana often can be contaminated with insecticide, fungicides, rodenticides, and other compounds used to eliminate or prevent infections. Many of the same compounds that are used by fruits, grains, and vegetable growers are not always used for cannabis, and some pesticides that are used in the marijuana grow operations may be not even labeled to be used on food crops. Currently, the states must develop their own pesticide use controls, as well as means for making sure that those regulations are being followed. Pesticide use on cannabis is not regulated by the EPA, and growers receive little guidance from any agricultural department as what is available and used on fruit and vegetables. Contamination can also come from water, pests, and require certain testing protocols, including how and when sampling and testing must be done, what tests are conducted, and if the lab needs to be accredited to 17025. But each state has different requirements. Without uniform testing, it is difficult to evaluate the safety of the products between states. Cannabis packaging regulation is ever-changing. From recreation to medical marijuana, the rules and regulations are extremely specific and strict. It is important to not only make sure you follow all the packaging requirements, such as child-proof and tamper-proof packaging, but also important to consider the food safety aspect of packaging and labeling as well. Consideration should be given to the type of packaging used. Is it traditionally used for a food product? Is the marijuana product contacting the packaging? And if so, are there any risks for chemical contamination? Finally, the labeling of products is extremely important, not only to meet state labeling requirements, but to ensure that the information is correct and accurate. What logos or symbols can I use on the labels, and what warning must be printed? So now I'd like to talk a little bit about cannabis certification, audit types, and steps to certification. Third-party certification is independent of state or federal regulation or inspection. Third-party is a private certification scheme that provides auditing and certification to a recognized set of safety standards. Many of the food safety standards are based off of good agricultural practices and HACCP, or hazard analysis and critical control point standards. Often larger food manufacturers or food retailers, such as grocery stores, require all of their suppliers to have third-party certification. This is an additional requirement beyond what is asked by the U.S. government. Third-party certification builds on regulatory requirements, adding additional processes, procedures, and controls to help ensure that the product is safe. PJRFSI can offer a few different types of food safety and cannabis safety audits. First is our own Cannabis Safety standard. This can be used for hemp and marijuana cultivation, as well as marijuana or hemp products, including both food and lotions and concentrates. For growers that are looking for a step up, then there's GFSI benchmarked certification audits to consider. SQF allows audits in Canada for marijuana and hemp growers. However, SQF does not allow certification for marijuana growers operating in the US due to it not being federally legal. Global Gap is another option to allow for hemp growers only. Primus GFS allows the certification of both the growing and processing of cannabis and hemp. There are many benefits of certification. Without the federal regulation, the lack of state oversight, or in-depth requirements, certification can help to mitigate risks to public health and safety. Certification can allow companies to promote their products with more confidence in their safety. It can help to increase consumer confidence. Consumers are even more unfamiliar with cannabis legislation and requirements. Certification can increase consumer confidence and help companies rise above the competition. Finally, it can help reduce recalls, save money, and save lives. PJRFSI can offer a pending letter of certification for our contracted clients. This letter states your schedule and timeline for certification. It allows your customers to see that you're working with an accredited certification body. It shows a commitment to cannabis safety to your stakeholders, employees, and potential customers. What are the steps to certification? PJRFSI can provide a free quote. Once you contract with us, we will then provide the pending letter. After you review and implement your cannabis safety system, we would then schedule the audit. Typically, the auditor will want to review 3 months of records. Prior to the certification audit, we can schedule a pre-assessment. This is optional audit, and then it can help to identify any gaps in your program. We're able to identify the gaps, but we cannot consult or tell you how to fix those gaps. For that, you would need a consultant. Our project managers are able to refer you to consultants if need be. The next step is to conduct your audit. The auditor will conduct an on-site audit, or we are able to conduct virtual audits if the connectivity is available. The auditor will go through all the requirements by reviewing records and procedures, interview employees, inspecting the production process and facility. If the auditor sees any nonconformity, they will document it, and those will need to be corrected in order to achieve certification. After the audit has finished, you will have 30 days to implement any corrective action for the nonconformities observed. Once this is completed and accepted by your auditor, PJRFSI's executive committee will review and make the certificate decision. Finally, PJRFSI will issue your certificate. Now I'd like to take a look into PJRFSI's Cannabis Safety Standard for Cultivation. PJRFSI Cannabis Safety Standard is applicable for both cannabis, both marijuana and hemp growers. It's based off of USDA GAP requirements and state-specific requirements. The requirements are applicable to both indoor and outdoor grow operations. How can you be audit ready? You can schedule a pre-assessment of a gap analysis prior to your certification audit. This will not only allow you to identify any gaps in your system, but you'll be able to have an understanding of the process of the certification audit. It is essential you review the standard and implement the requirements. The auditor's checklist is taken directly from the standard and will be auditing to those requirements. Employees will need to be trained because implementing cannabis safety is everyone's responsibility, from top management to field workers. Training is essential. Specific cannabis safety training is needed, especially for those employees that come in contact with the product. An internal audit will help you audit yourself to the standard to identify any deficiencies before the auditor is on site. Finally, if any deficiencies are identified, corrective actions should be implemented so that problems do not reoccur. Part 1 of the standard is broken up into 4 sections. This includes gap requirements, operations and harvest, post-harvest operations, and storage and transportation. Part 2 varies by state, and you should reference the applicable state requirements. The first section of the standard covers general requirements, traceability, workers' health and hygiene. General requirements include a documented food safety plan and someone designated to oversee the cannabis safety program. A traceability program must be implemented, including performing a mock recall, and production areas must be identified. Section 3 covers workers' health and hygiene. Now let's take a closer look at Section 3. Drinking water must be available to all workers, and proper sanitation and hygiene practices must be followed by workers and visitors. These include hand washing before work or after visiting the restroom when hands and gloves become soiled. Hand washing signs must be posted and restrooms must be available with single-use towels, toilet paper, hand soap, and water. Hand washing water must meet microbial standards for drinking water. Smoking and eating must be prohibited from the growing area, and designated spot must be provided. You need to have a blood and bodily fluid policy, and first aid supplies be available for minor injuries. Workers shall be trained on all the procedures and proper hygiene, and visitors must be informed of those policies as well. Section 4, 5, and 6 cover water usage, soil amendments, and agricultural chemicals. Looking deeper into sections 5 and 6 include the use of a soil amendment, such as a compost or fertilizer that's made from an animal origin, and it may not propose a risk of contamination. Agricultural chemicals, such as fertilizers and pesticides, must be applied by a trained and licensed person or under direct supervision of a licensed person. All applications must be made to label requirements and to any prevailing regulation. Section for outdoor cultivation includes sewage treatment, animals, wildlife and livestock, and outdoor soil. Section 9, outdoor soil requirements include a land risk assessment to be formed when a risk is identified, and then steps need to be taken to mitigate any potential risks. This may include testing the soil for any contaminants, or in areas that flood, conducting microbial testing. For indoor cultivation, Section 10, indoor growing areas should be free of standing water, litter, and debris. Floor drains are free of obstructions. If there's glass material above the growing area, they must be able to be contained in the case of breakage. Animals and pests are excluded from the growing area. This includes both domesticated and wild animals. The operations and harvest section includes sanitation and hygiene, and harvest and transportation. The requirements for harvest include harvest containers that come in contact with product are cleaned and sanitized on a regular basis. All harvest equipment, such as knives, pruners, are kept clean and disinfected on a schedule. A glass and plastic breakage policy is required, as well as a product contamination by chemical pesticides or other. Finally, transportation equipment must be clean and in good repair. Post-harvest operations would be applicable to any operation that trims, dries, or packages cannabis flower. Post-harvest requirements include packing area, worker hygiene, and general housekeeping. It also includes traceability, maintenance, and sanitation. If an operation does not perform these activities, then the section can be excluded. Storage and transportation would be applicable for the cannabis flower storage area and transportation to the processor retail. This would include product containers and pallets, pest control, transportation, worker health and hygiene, and traceability. State-specific cannabis rules would depend on state-by-state requirements. These would be included in the auditor checklist and would be sent to you in advance of your scheduled audit. We update the rules as the states update theirs, and it would only be applicable to states where the growing of cannabis is legal. Currently, PJRFSI is offering a free download of the Cannabis Safety Standards on our website. You can access it on the following link or by going to the Cannabis Safety Standard on www.pjrfsi.com. You will be able to download the recording of this webinar by going to our website. And if you have any specific questions, you can feel free to email us at customerservice@pjrfsi.com. I'm happy to take questions now, and if you would like, you can type them into the chat box and I'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, our next webinar is scheduled for August 13th for Cannabis GMP. Well, I don't see any questions right now, but I just want to thank everyone for joining us today for the Cannabis Gap webinar. Again, my name is Lauren Maloney, the Food Safety Accreditation Manager for PJRFSI, and I'm always available to be contacted if you think of any questions later. Thank you for your time and have a great day.